All right, can we line this up? Maybe bring this back. I don't know if you can see that in the shot or not. Today's video is all about audience interaction, so I'm going to begin by posing to you a thought-provoking question, which today will be, how has technology impacted your life or work? So telling a bit about mine. Obviously, my work up until this case, well, not obviously, if you've not been here before, I'm making a career transition from being a web developer to a content creator. Here we go. And using those skills along to achieve that. So there's an impact right there. Now, being a web developer, obviously technology has had a huge impact on my life. We go back right to when I was a child in the 80s. We had a Commodore 64 came out. That's when my first introduction to what we generally consider technology today came to be. So a Commodore 64 was this old computer, didn't do much, and most of the games that I played came in a book, and I had to type the code out, and I had no idea what I was doing. I was just copying code in. I remember vaguely some of what I typed in way back then, but I guess that was my interaction to programming, even if I wasn't entirely understanding what I was doing at the time. I had a bit of a dream to perhaps one day learn how people make games and such like that, and it was just absolutely a complete enigma to me. I had no idea. I used to type this code in and they do sprites, and I was just like, how could they use what I'm using here to make these computer games and things? I had absolutely no idea. And so as I went through high school and I became friends with people with computers, and more computers came out, we had 386s, 486s, Pentiums and things like that. Moore's Law was happening. Technology was doubling in its speed and efficiency and stuff every 4 years. And I was keeping up with that. And I had friends and it was interesting. And I was a kid in high school. I had time to play with this stuff. But also things got easier, like things became more abstract, the programming languages, there was lots of libraries, like you go a game programmer today versus a game programmer in the 80s, it's a very different beast as far as I'm aware, as far as I understand it, because now you can grab what you call a game engine, there's images, you can plug them in, you can put soundtracks in there, download some music and just tell it to play that music. Whereas back in the day, you had to program all that yourself. If you wanted music, you had to find someone to program a 6-bit music. If you remember back in the day, like things like the Nintendo, the kind of music they had, how they made those little sprites, you didn't just make like a GIF image and go, here, use that. They were coded in. And so I never really quite got to that level. It was something I'd dreamed of, but I ended up being a web developer because the skills I developed took me in that direction. And so definitely affected my life because I ended up being a web developer for basically 20 years. There was a hiatus here and there where I tried things like sales and stuff like that. And but then ended up coming back to web development anyway, because that's where the stable income came from. And here we are 20 years later, and I'm basically waking up to my damn self and going, you know what, I was never really happy. I never really enjoyed it. I may have been good at it. Well, let's put it, I was good enough at it. It's not like I was an outperforming amazing star and the best web developer in the world. And often having to play the comparison game. I know people that are better at it than me. I know people that are worse at it than me. But I never enjoyed it, right? It was stressful. I hated doing estimates. I hated estimating how long something would take. Because one of the things about me that I know very much about my skill when it comes to dealing with technology is I don't necessarily know things. I'm very good at figuring things out. So I could be in meetings and some people ask, how do you do this? And I go, boom, 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 you do blah, blah, blah. Whereas my skill is being able to figure things out. And that's a very valuable skill. It's like, I don't know how to do it, but I'll figure it out. And so when it comes to things like doing estimating, I was terrible. I don't have a great memory. I remember working with a manager once who said to me, you solved this problem a year ago, why don't you do the same thing? And I'm just like, I don't remember solving that. How did they remember what I did a year ago? Absolutely blows my mind. The memory on that guy was absolutely stunning. And some people are like that, but that's not me. And so I personally believe I have a talent in web development. I've been doing it for years. Couldn't have possibly lasted that long if that wasn't true. And I manage my own website and I built my own website now. Find that, what do we say? Things change. right? I find that often the layman, the people that don't know as much as I do, sometimes have an advantage on things, like, because these days, if you want to build a website, there are things like go and get a Facebook page, and even that's a bit outdated now, but there's Wix and Squarespace and stuff like that. And these are technologies that I've never had a chance to play with. Never taken the time to play with them. I've been doing full-time web development, working on a very specific product called Drupal, which is designed for building websites for enterprise. It's very strong in the government at the moment in Australia. So there's a lot of Australian government websites being built on Drupal, and it's been around for a very long time. And so there's a lot of work in that, but all the work's full-time, and it's kind of the same. Well, it's not kind of the same. We build a lot of things out of it. It's very adaptable. It's enterprise grade. You can customize it, change it, make it pull different modules and different plugins into it to make it do different things and such like that. And but that's what I do. And so when someone comes to me, say, at a pub and says, you're a web developer, I've got a lawnmower shop, can you build me a website? I've often been a little bit, well, no, I don't. The analogy I might make to that is that, say, not that I'm great with cars, but we'll use them as an analogy. Say that I'm an expert in customizing a carburetor for an F1 race sprint car. And then I'm down the pub and people go, what do you do? It's like, well, I'm a mechanic, right? And they go, well, can you fix my car? It's like, no, not really. I have no idea how to do it. And so I've found my journey in web development has been a bit like that. I've got a general understanding. I know how an engine works. I know how a website works in that analogy. But when it comes to some of those basic things, I think often it's the people on the street have a better idea how to use Squarespace than I do, because they're coming in blank with a blank slate, and I have to unlearn a lot of things. So that's my journey of how technology has affected my work and my life. And obviously it's even affecting it now. Right this moment, I've got a phone set up on a stand with ring lights right in front of me. You can't see them. I can see them. And I'm recording myself and I'm doing this exercise, and I'm making a career transition into something that technically, through technology, wasn't even possible when I started my career. And so I get to talk to you, I get to tell you what's going on, and I get to communicate with you and build this audience and share what I have to say and find what I have to say. And I put it to you, there's the opportunity for you. Like I think about how technology has changed your life. It really pulls into every single part of our lives these days. Even my parents, you see them using a computer, checking their email and stuff like that. And that was something that did not even exist, right? I think email probably existed at that time. I was playing with the Commodore 64 in a very, very early iteration of it, but I didn't come across it. I didn't really use email until the late 90s, right? So that's pretty much it. That's how technology affects my life. I've gone way over my 5 minutes. We're coming up on the 10. We're not quite there yet, but that was my intro into technology. Please have a think about how technology affects your life, and I'll see you tomorrow. Thanks for coming.